Finance MEC Nomantu Nkomo-Ralehoko has tabled the provincial budget, and our business reporter Kopano Gumbi was there, and she joins us now for a debrief. Thank you very much. So, as we mentioned in the headline, Kopano, infrastructure also getting some money. What should we know about that?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. In fact, 25% of the entire budget that has been allocated by National Treasury to the Gauteng provincial government is going to go to some kind of infrastructure development. When I asked the MEC, what do you intend to use this money for, she was very clear that it's on projects related to education and health. So she was like, well, we're going to use the money to build more schools, and we're going to use the money to improve what's happening in our healthcare system. And I asked her also about, does that include two very important hospitals in the Gauteng area, Charlotte Maxeke and Chris Hani Baragwanath? And this is what she had to tell us.
Over the 2022 MTF, a budget of 36.8 billion has been recommended for the GPG infrastructure program to improve the condition and capacity of the existing stock of infrastructure assets, of which 12.2 billion is allocated for 2022-23 financial year, and 12.3 billion for 2023-24 financial year, and 12.3 billion for 24-25 financial year. Highlights of the projects to be funded under the auspices of infrastructure program over 2022 MTF are the following. The first one, under roads and transport, is upgrading of road K101 phase 1 from N1 Royersgraal interchange to road T75 Olifantsfontein Road in Midrand. Upgrading R82 phase 3 between road D1073 Walkerville and K164 Didier, and construction of new road K60 between Megawatt Park, which is Maxwell Drive, and Kyalami Drive.
So that's infrastructure. We understand that health and education will get a lion's share of the budget. What do we need to understand about that?
So every year the national government allocate that money to Gauteng, and every year Gauteng gives the lion's share of their budget towards education and health. We know Gauteng Education Department, of course, basic education services, and then most of the hospitals and clinics in the area are maintained through some of that provincial budget, as well as an addition from the national budget. So one of the key factors, or the most important and urgent, I should say, that has come up is the upgrades or the repairs for Charlotte Maxeke Hospital, as well as medical interns at Chris Hani Baragwanath not being paid. So I'd asked the MEC, would you be willing to part with some of your originally allocated budget to give that to medical interns if the national government says, oh, we can't, we may not be able to? And she very coyly said to me, well, we have money available to pay for our nurses and doctors in the area. So perhaps some money will finally go to them. But, you know, it's been a very important matter because the state of all of our infrastructure is really quite poor, and it really hurts the majority of South Africans. They're at the heart of it when it comes to healthcare, when they're faced with these long queues, not enough doctors, not enough equipment available, or medicines for them. All of that comes to the fore when we think about what the government should be spending their money on. And with 60 billion rand being allocated for health, it's quite significant, and you would hope that these projects will be fast-tracked given the state that we're in. But this is also what the MEC had to say about health.
In the light of the resource constraints facing the health sector as a whole, a total of 3.4 billion has been made available to the Department of Health over the 2022 MTF, consisting of 1.6 billion in the 2022-23 and 738 million in 2023-24 and 1 billion in 24-25. While acknowledging that the pandemic is still in our midst, our response is driven by scientific evidence. Accordingly, in the 2022-23 financial year, it is expected that this additional amount will largely go towards resourcing the Gauteng COVID-19 response plan, together with offsetting other budgetary pressures. In order to ensure that the Gauteng provincial government continues to have capacity to fight the COVID-19 pandemic, a once-off amount of 1.1 billion will enable Gauteng Department of Health to maintain some of the existing human resource capacity for the duration of 2022-23 financial year.
So, Kopano, today we are reporting that the Department of Health in Gauteng has raised concern over the high numbers of mental health patients that they are seeing, and this is due to socioeconomic conditions, among other issues. So we do hope that this money will definitely go to where it's supposed to go. But in terms of actually making sure there's accountability, right, because we've seen that monies that were meant to go towards certain projects were, you know, misdirected, if you will. What did she say about that?
So I did ask her on that. I pressed her to say, you know, a lot of the challenges that we face is that there's mismanagement in your department. In fact, underspend is the second biggest concern for the Gauteng provincial government. So they're not spending the money that they have available, and then in some cases it's being inappropriately spent. And she said to me, no, they really do take that quite seriously, and they've set up a dashboard that shows where money is being spent, how it's being spent, and they are fully tracking and monitoring the spend, at least from the MEC Finance's office. That's what they are trying to do for this.
The curious case of South Africa. Thank you very much, Kopano Gumbi, for that update as always.